We are live today with Jeff Millis here as a
Hello.
composer. Hey, Jeff. So Jeff Millis is here today by invitation, and I'm so honored to have him here. And this series I called Coffee with Composers, and it's intended to inspire creativity, celebrate real life composers doing great things in the world of modern composition, and hopefully bring to life the music you play as a fellow piano enthusiast, whether you're a teacher, a student, or whether you just love music and love celebrating music. So today's guest, like I mentioned, is Jeff Millis, a composer, pianist,
Hello.
and music educator. And I'm beyond honored to have Jeff here, and it's pretty fun to discover composers creating music that you really connect to as a musician and a teacher. So I hope we'll all be able to learn from you today, Jeff.
Awesome. I'm super thrilled to be here. Amy, your channel is full of such incredible composers, and I think it's a super awesome thing to be uh, have my name next to theirs on your channel. That's a kind of a pinch me moment. So
Aw,
thank you
yeah.
so much.
You're so welcome. Yeah, isn't it fun just to see that, hey, like as a composer too, you're not alone. There's all
Oh
these
yeah.
wonderful creatives
Mhm.
alongside you, each bringing something that's very unique. And that's
Mhm.
what got me excited about this project a few years ago, is thinking, wow, like every piece of music resonates differently with each
Mhm.
student. And
Mhm.
it's such a gift to give that to students too and say, hey, here's a piece that I think you're going to love, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So to help our listeners get to know you better, and listeners will be here live and they'll also be here on the replay. So if you're joining us live, you can say hello in the comments. If you're coming in on the replay, we'll also circle back and answer questions there. So to help people get to know you better, how would you describe yourself as a musician and or a composer?
I would say I think it's a really interesting question. I don't actually think about it very often, so I gave it some thought when you sent me that question
Yeah.
last night, and what I came up with is I think I would describe myself as a creativity first, a creativity forward musician and composer. To be honest with you, sometimes I feel like I might even enjoy creating music more than performing it. I sometimes I feel like I just want to. I'm very introverted, and so I
Yeah.
love to be in the dark closed room, just creating something by myself, and then if somebody ever sees it or hears it someday, that's an added plus. But I had fun just in the process of creating it. So, I funny story. When I was young, very young, my parents they couldn't afford lessons right away. I did go, of course, later on get teachers and all of that, but my first exposure to music was nothing but improvisation and creativity. They bought me, my own keyboard, and they encouraged me as much as they could. And so I spent a ton of time just teaching myself and learning and figuring things out. And obviously, I figured a lot of things out by myself, which I'm, very proud of. But of course, I missed a lot. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that my first initial exposure to music was as a creative endeavor. And so I thought that's what everybody does with their instrument. When I was a kid, that was kind of like my first impression. Like, isn't that what you do when you have an instrument? You create music with it, right? And so it wasn't until much later, as I grew up and start, getting lessons and so forth, that I realized there are some people who only play their instrument and play something that someone else wrote. And to me, that was just like a really bizarre concept as a child. Like, wow, that's a thing. Like, you only, like, I didn't realize that that's what some people did with their instrument. And so I'm kind of grateful for that start. First impressions are very, very powerful.
Mhm.
And just my first impression of music was that it is at its core a creative endeavor. And I think that a lot of traditional training and a lot of traditionally trained students start with kind of a first impression that the goal of music is to be able to do something hard. And, I have nothing against hard. Hard is, admirable. It's impressive. But to me, it's just, it has never been first priority. I want to, I've always been the kind of musician and composer that wants to express myself and to connect emotionally. I want to create something that impacts me and hopefully impacts others and kind of touches them, in that place in the gut where they're like, oh, I felt that. And that's to answer your question. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I love that you use that creativity first or even creativity forward. And I think it's a gift when there's obviously aspects of all our first starts in music that are complicated. But I love how your first impressions of music was like, hey, music is something to be created.
Yes.
And that's a neat goal. And I think sometimes we get stifled in that. Like, I know myself as a learner, I was so proud. We got a new piano at our house and I was like, oh, wow. I found notes that are familiar. But then right away, I had the opposite as you and got funneled into reading. And although I was a bright word reader and self-taught at 4, music notation was so mysterious to me. I just didn't catch on, and I was used to kind of being quick at reading. So I thought, something is wrong with my brain, and I just didn't have it. So then it really slowed down that creativity. So I love how your experience did foster that, like, let's just make sound happen, right? And that is a unique goal. And I'm sure that's something that you now share with your students as well.
And I do, and I like to say, when you hold up a piece of sheet music, that's not music. That's a page or maybe a screen, with symbols on it that represent music and communicate music. Music is inherently sound. And it's sound that communicates emotion. Well, I guess there are lots of ways to define music. That's one way, maybe, that it could be done. But the point is that music is meant to be heard. And I love the idea of communicating music first, and then the understanding that reading and writing it is simply a way of communicating that to someone else. Now, I do also, not to knock literacy skills or anything, I do think that those should be started early just because they are, like you said, it is the thing that comes to a student, I think, the least intuitively, because if someone is musically intuitive, they are going to make music. It's going to come out of their fingers. But the reading, you kind of need that, little nudge. So not to say that I don't think we shouldn't start reading early. I think it's necessary, but it should be in its place,
Yeah.
So.
I love that. I think we share that thought of like nurturing simultaneous growth in a few different areas. And I love that too, because you can say, okay, this is our part of our lesson or part of our music experience, or whether you're a pianist too, like I'm gifting myself this time to play around at the instrument without any rules, without any pressure, right? So I love that over spring break, I decided to do something a little bit daring that I've never done and live stream myself learning and practicing one of your pieces called Rebuttal. So if people have been following in, I've been trying to learn this live. And the piece really caught my interest for a variety of reasons, and live streaming my practice in progress was fun-filled and slightly nerve-wracking as I realized that, like every student, I have my little flaws when it comes to practicing. But
I loved it, Amy. I loved that whole entire series. It took me by surprise. I have a section of my website where it's like a little bulletin board area, kind of like we can chat back and forth with each other.
Yeah.
And I was posting your videos all the time. And because I had students of my own learning, and I said, look. I said, it's real. Like all the things that I tell you, she says it too. So it was wonderful. It was super cool.
It's like that camaraderie, right? Like, hey, hear it from some different perspective, right? So I love that you've been so supportive of the process and pitching in, and even a helpful video to help in one of the sections. And I must admit, at first I was thinking, oh no, I hope I'm not doing this piece a disservice by playing it poorly a bunch of times online.
I was thrilled.
Yeah. So, but I loved that it really brought me around to the fact that much of our time as musicians is spent in either the creative process that's going to have spilled notes all over the place, some sounds that our ears love, and some sounds that our ears are like, oh, I don't know if I really love that.
Right.
And same within practice. Although we try to have a refined process that kind of doesn't practice in mistakes, it can be a messy process as we find our path. So I was thinking of the piece in specific, and hopefully people listening in can kind of glean from that these are like ways that a composer might think about composing. But I thought about this and thought, when you compose this piece, did a theme come to you at first, or did the music start to take shape first? What was your experience with that?
It was definitely the music first. I have the hardest time with titles. So I think this one went through like 3 or 4 different titles. And just fun fact, so it's, and you would always mention on your streams, which I thought was cool, you would say Hard Conversations number 3. And I think one time you even said, I'm curious about the other parts. And I thought, well, here's a funny story. I keep saying that this is a secret, but then I keep telling people. So because I'm so bad at titles, literally this is what happened. I finally settled on this one. I finally, I liked the Rebuttal title. It just kind of had a little bit of an argumentative flavor to it. Yeah. And so, and then one day I stopped and I realized that that I was in a bit of a rut apparently, because I had another piece called No Easy Way to Say. And then I had another one which was completely separate. I was not thinking consciously of one or the other. Another one at another time was called Still It Must Be Said. And then I had this one called Rebuttal. And I was like, I think I may have either hit a rut, or I can just pretend like I did it on purpose. So I put them all together in a series, and I said, you know what, it's called Hard Conversations 1, 2, and 3, and that's what it is. And then I did another bizarre thing by, putting number 3 out first, but it was the one I was itching to play first, so.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much, and I love that the composition came to you like in the notes and the musical ideas, and then the theme came after. And I also noticed you mentioned how titles are hard for you, but I listened into some of your titles on Tim Topham's podcast.
Oh.
And I thought your titles are great. So even though you labor even though you labor over them, I thought, "Oh my goodness, these are titles that I think students will really connect to and pianists will
wonderful.
connect to." So yeah, I heard some of them and I was like, "This is great." So if anyone's listening in after the stream, you want to hear more from Jeff Millis, he does have a podcast interview with Tim Topham that's also online that's quite great glimpse of you as a composer.
Awesome. Just real quick, one funny story. I just remembered, literally, Rebuttal, the name of it in the notation software when I was writing it down, it literally was called The Title is the Hardest Part. And I was telling students, I said, because, I would show it to them in various stages of, finished or unfinished.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, I think that we're just going to go with this. I think it's going to be called The Title is the Hardest Part.
Yeah.
And thankfully we graduated from that. But if I hadn't thought of something better, then that's what it would be.
Yeah, so that can be like a future
there you
one.
go.
Hey, that's awesome. So if people are listening in today, feel free to say hi in the comments. We're really glad that you're here. And also, if you come in on the replay, then we hope that you enjoy getting to know Jeff, getting to know his music. So it sounds like the music often takes shape for you first. And so today we're going to dive into a few little lesson moments in this, because I've been working away as a spring break project with great enthusiasm. And I might have thought after, like, oh, if I knew I wanted it done by a certain date, maybe I would have taken a different process. And yet I've had such great fun with it. And it's a fabulous piece. I think some things that I love about it. Actually, would you mind playing a couple bars of it on your
sure.
side?
Can you hear that?
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I may not be as good as Amy, by the way, folks. Now, she has actually been practicing this
Yes.
regularly, unlike me, but something like this. Yay! That's the opening.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And so it gives people a glimpse of what we've been working on. So I thought today we would dive into a little mini lesson, because one thing about being a music teacher, now Jeff and I are both teachers, but we are always learners. And I think I love to model that there's always a new perspective somebody can have on your playing, a new idea. And something about learning a piece from a modern contemporary composer who's still alive and well is that we could actually take little tips from them and advice. And I love how it seems, Jeff, that even though you're kind of setting your music out into the world, there's probably some excitement on your side of hearing it played and enjoyed. And I'm sure that there might be moments that are like, oh dear, like that's not exactly how I intended it. And yet there's probably has to be some freedom there too, because everyone's trying to interpret this great score.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to hear your music played by other people, you shouldn't share it. You know? And I want to hear it played by other people. So that's literally the point. So I'm thrilled. And I have to say, Amy, too, that your process, you mentioned something briefly before, that I applaud your courage to learn a brand new piece as a professional teacher yourself, to get in front of the whole internet and say, I'm going to learn a new piece of music, and like from note number 1, and I'm going to sight read it. I kept telling my own students, I kept saying, go look at this video. Look, because she's taking like 1 or 2 measures and doing it over and over. Yeah. You know, like we talk about, she's stopping and figuring out her fingering and doing it very slowly, you know, like we talk about, you know, all these things. And I say, listen, you're not weird, okay? You're not weird. It's the right way. You're supposed to do it. So I am incredibly impressed with your bravery to be able to do that. So anyway, I don't know. I feel kind of funny calling this a lesson, because I'm like, I can't teach you. If you're like some tips on this piece, maybe I can share some, but I don't know. I wouldn't call it a lesson, but whatever we call it.
We'll call it an exploration,
there you
right?
go, there you go.
And even I noticed one thing that was really unique in doing it live for me, as I had mentioned early in the streaming process, that I really struggle with memory, and I've done like massive amounts of strategies in order to memorize, because when I did my piano degrees, I had to memorize a large quantity of historical repertoire. But one thing I found was cool is, because I talked through the process of learning this one, I actually am starting to have a lot of it memorized. And I thought,
so cool.
I just need to mutter to myself like an old genius in a closet here.
Exactly, yes.
Maybe that's the skill I hadn't unlocked yet. So let's have this as an exploration, and I definitely know which sections of it were trickiest for me that may or may not be tricky for others, but let's kind of just do a fun like walkthrough. What was maybe start with like, what was your favorite section to create, or what's a sound that you love in this piece, and we'll start there and see like, what does it sound like? How can we improve on it?
It's hard for me to say a favorite, because I do write a lot of music, and if I end up not loving it, I just don't put it out there. So there's a lot of music that I end up going like, I don't really like that, and nobody ever sees it. So if I put it out there, it means I kind of sort of like it, at least.
Exactly.
So I don't know if I could say that I have a favorite part of this one. I did really enjoy, and it did come in kind of like in pieces, you know. And that happens with a lot of my compositions. Will be kind of patchwork. I have this little piece, and then that, and then I see how I can weave them together and put them into one. So so I don't know if that answers your question or does not.
Yeah, it
Hello,
totally
Christina.
does. Hi, Christina. What a treat to have you here. Christina is an absolutely wonderful, inspiring human, and is a wonderful violinist and has
Oh.
worked on a really cool series for violinists. And I had the unique privilege of studying with her when she was younger and learning music theory subjects and
Wow.
had a blast with that. So now she could teach me things about music and music
Awesome.
history. So we're always learning and growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be hard to choose a favorite. Well, I know that one of the things that drew me to this piece was the aspects that I thought I'll never be able to play that. And
Hmm.
I won't focus on this aspect, but I had lost the use of my right hand 13 years ago, so I sometimes detour like because of a stroke. So
Mm-hmm.
I detour around stuff that
Hmm.
is fast. And I need to start
Wow.
being like, Amy, you actually can play some fast stuff again, but I need to practice like everyone
Oh,
does.
right, right.
Right? So when I first heard this, for one, I love this kind of idea here that's like that. I'll see. I'm not warmed up, but we'll just
Mm.
face it like
Go
pros
for it.
here.
Yeah.
So the
Same.
part that's like done. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that is such like a cool little lick, and it made me feel like, oh, this is so like edgy and cool. I love that there was like accents in different places, like
Mm-hmm.
1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and
Mm-hmm.
a 4 E and a. So that
Yeah.
just delighted me,
Awesome.
which was fun. If you had a learner who's just starting learning this, um, would you have any tips for learning that little section?
Yes, the tip is go watch Amy's video of her doing it, because literally, Amy,
Yeah.
I was watching you learn that part in your, I think I caught the replay of it, and
Mm.
I was like, I believe this teacher has been eavesdropping, because you did literally everything. You said, I like to go backwards, and I said,
Yeah.
I did the same thing. This is one measure 12 right there is a measure that I would, because I teach online, it's a screen share. We
Yeah.
zoom way in, like we blow that measure way up, and we do all
Yeah.
this color coding, and I don't know if I can do it on StreamYard. You're the
Yeah.
StreamYard expert, but regardless, but same thing, we blow it way up, and we do like one note at a time. I did the same thing that you did, where
Yeah.
I blocked it first. You know, I said, let's do this, right, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then da 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 da, and so
Yeah.
forth. All of the same things. So my tips are, watch Amy learn it, because that is precisely how I taught it.
Yeah.
So awesome. That's
that's
another
fun.
reason why I was like, you guys, you gotta go watch this. You gotta go
Yeah.
watch this.
Just confirmation, right?
So
and
cool.
I learned something that might help someone else or not, but because I was learning about like accessing the upper part of my hand,
Mhm.
I realized that I'd been pinning my elbow to my side because I
Oh.
also ripped
Mhm.
my shoulder last year. I'm
Oh,
a
no.
wreck, guys.
Oh.
But I noticed that in this one, it can be really helpful to free this
Mhm.
side of your hand and
roll
make
it.
sure that it can access the top part. So when I loosened up my elbow a little bit, I found I could follow it better. Ba, 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 ba. And you're
Mhm.
kind of like leaning into that
Yeah.
top note so that
Mhm.
you're not like having that kind of where you're mushing over it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it really possible to accent the top, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone's hand will move differently, and that's one of the things I think as music
Mhm,
educators we
mhm.
love to say, hey, if you're stuck with
Yeah.
something, a teacher can help you
Yes.
explore something
Mhm.
that's feeling really, really stuck there.
Mhm.
Another part that I laugh because I'm a terrible metronome user, I confess, in front of the whole interwebs.
Oh, I have a whole. I have a soapbox about that. I will not get on it right now.
Okay.
I'm with you. Go ahead.
Okay. So, however, I do like using rhythm and beat and stuff,
Mhm.
and I love this percussive section. Is that in
Mm.
your fingers to like show this little percussive
Which
section?
part are you talking
measure
about?
30. The
Oh yes. Okay.
Dun,
I
dun,
take
dun.
it back. You asked me earlier what's my favorite. This is one of my favorites.
okay.
So yeah, this part of. Right
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah, I love that part too.
It's so fun. It just feels like this piece. I think what intrigued me is it has so many like little gems of creative content that you like are surprised by because you've just played like
Mhm.
and you're just playing this like lyrical part, and all of a sudden you've just entered the world of percussion. When I hear you play it, I do realize I don't add as much percussive sound on the octave, so that's probably something I could work on. Like trying to think if I can start it without having a lead in here, but yeah. Your sound's so fluid.
Well, I've been doing it for a very long time, but yeah, I like to because I called it percussive because it's intentionally not terribly melodic, and I'm generally really big on melody. Like there's got to be a strong melody, but we had, like you said, a very melodic section right before, and it's just kind of argumentative sounding, you know, and like this is I don't know, I kind of feel like we had this big exchange, words went back and forth, and then all of a sudden it's time to just kind of walk away in a huff for a minute and, you know, just kind of cool down and don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Give me 5 seconds, right? And then we'll be able to come back and try again.
Yeah, exactly. Let me try holding that accented note slightly longer, because I might be clipping it, which is why it's not sounding as held. I'll just maybe play through it and then try to add those. Yeah. That's what's happening, is I'm kind of clipping it, so I wonder if...
Yes. Oh, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, there we go. So
I like
that's
right on beat 4.
Yeah, that's something I can work on for sure.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also I'd like to be very intentional too about the contrast between the pedaled sections and the not pedaled sections. Like on these parts, like I don't touch the pedal at all, you know, because it gets very lyrical. And then, you know, we thought the conversation was going well. Maybe we're making some progress. We're starting to see each other's points. Or whoops, I played the notes wrong.
That's okay. That was beautiful.
You know, and then where are we here? And that's the wrong section. I don't even have the music in front of me. It's just
that's
like,
okay.
And then it's like, nope, you just said the wrong thing, and we are now not friends again.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, pedaled and no pedal.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I am definitely an over pedaler, so I thought this is a good piece for me to be like, okay, Amy, like no pedal, just like feet on the floor, determine So fun.
It is so fun.
It's a great.
You sound great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a great piece, and I love that. I don't always, if people are watching the live stream, I don't always suggest like learning a bit of everything at once. It was kind of like the fire hose method of learning, where some might stay, like be like, okay, 2 measures, dum ba da dum ba dum,
Yes.
and then just repeat those 2. And
Yes,
that
yes,
is
yes.
the most efficient way to learn usually. I kind of also, because I had a live audience, I thought I want to show them the different aspects of this piece and then weave it together and not just stay in 2 measures. But in doing so, then I've had a bit of work to try to like get it all together so it's cohesive and and forward. But it's a different approach, right? And there's maybe some benefit, because then it's not unfamiliar at the end of it, the piece, because you've kind of equally moved through it. So the next little part... What was I thinking? Yeah, there's a little sticky section that I've struggled with, but I don't think necessarily others would. Like, it's that dun dun dun. Bum. So I don't know if you have any tips for that, or...
I guess not tips. I've heard you talk about that on the live stream, and I've heard you tackle the solutions. You know, you talked a lot about, and I think you did mention your injury, which I have to say, kudos, because you really have overcome quite a lot there. To a casual observer, it is not obvious at all. So we're all very impressed. The internet is impressed. But I think that the solutions that you've been talking through, just the way of adjusting the weight of your arm, and also gauging, like, depending on what we're playing, where is the fulcrum really, right? Like sometimes with softer music is just from here, but then we have, sometimes it's the wrist, sometimes it's from the elbow, sometimes it's like, you jump off the bench and you come, no, I'm just kidding, you don't do that, but adjusting where the weight is coming from, all of those things that you've talked through yourself. Personally, I think even just what you did just there sounded so much better than before. So I think what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
I don't have anything especially insightful to say beyond that.
Yeah. Well, I like what you say though about, like, for student listeners, that they're thinking, oh yeah, okay, there's so much like mechanics to piano. And I think as teachers, we get to kind of have this like idea, but we don't always see what we're doing. So again, live streaming this gave me a unique challenge, because I could go, oh wow, I'm actually really stuck here and I need to problem solve. And I think for students too, they're in a position where there's a week between lessons most often. Some of our students come twice a week, but that's not as common. And so we're always having to problem solve on behalf of ourselves and say, is it that I don't understand a rhythm? Is it that it's a note? Is it that I can't move there fast enough?
Right.
Like, we're always finding that. So I think, I've kind of settled on the fact that this probably needs a bit more time. If I was in a pressured position, here's an interesting question. Say I was like, I have to perform this live in a week, which I don't have to do. But as a composer, what would you suggest I do if I had to pick a note, or if I had to reduce the score slightly?
Yes, I would say, you mean in that measure you're talking about?
Yeah.
I would say go with the bottom and the top. Maybe because that E flat is in the middle there. If you had to, it would, if it would be easier for you to just do.
Yeah. So that's what I thought I would address with listeners who, once in a while, we get ourselves in a sticky situation where you've got a recital coming up, or I've done lots of weddings where I had like 10 days or something to prepare, and then you're like, wow, this was like too much. I've practiced through the night too many times. I'm going to have to reduce some things.
Yep.
So I thought that was like kind of an interesting thing too, that sometimes we do have to make modifications. We try not to, because we know that each note that you put on the score is important to your ear as a composer. But I thought I'd mention that as a fellow musician, there are times that I'd be like, man, okay, I'm flying the white flag here.
No, I get it. And to be clear, also, just a couple of responses to what you said. Writing out sheet music for things that I wrote is not something that I ever started doing until I started teaching, which, by now is a bajillion years ago. But like I said, creativity first has always been for me. And I was the kind of player, before I started teaching, if I wrote something, I wouldn't even play it the exact same way, note for note, every single time. I was much more of, like, I guess you could say, like a lead sheet thinker. I thought in lead sheets. Is just kind of how, and so honestly, it wouldn't bother me at all if somebody played it that way, if they needed to make that slight adjustment. Are we communicating the melody? Are we communicating the harmony? If there's something like that's really important, I should probably make sure that I write it in the score. Especially this part. Pay attention. But other than that, I would not be the kind of composer that is like. Gonna overly hyperventilate over the fact that E flat in the middle of the chord was or wasn't played. Does that offend some people? I'm sorry, but kind of not sorry. But you do.
Sorry,
your music.
not sorry.
Yeah, there you go. And also, to your point of, you said earlier, and you said it again just a moment ago, about talking through it. Talking through on the live stream and how that helps you. And then you're just saying a moment ago something similar. I love that approach, and I feel like that's an important teaching and learning moment. My students will tell you that I love to mess with them, and because I don't know if this ever happens with your students, but if you ask if they're having trouble, I want to help them think through the issue, because if they think through it, we can address it. But what tends to happen is I'll ask a question and they'll try to answer by playing piano keys. Which really amounts to guessing, you know what I mean? Which is so they're just kind of like, well, is it this? Well, isn't that? And I say, no, no, no. I say, if you are asked a question with English words,
Yeah.
or whatever language, but
Yeah.
answer with English words,
Right.
because it actually forces you to stop and think through, okay, but what was the issue, and therefore what is the solution? And then, it can be addressed. And to the memory point, if I can just say something very quickly about that, because you talked about memorization and
Yeah.
having trouble with that, and what if we had to perform this? My hot take, and you tell me if you agree or disagree,
Yeah.
I personally am skeptical. I'm not going to say hard and fast no, but I am skeptical that most musicians actually have problems memorizing in just memorizing. What I think most people mean when they say I have trouble memorizing is I have trouble memorizing by a deadline.
Yeah,
Is
that's a
what
good
I
point.
think. Because, and the reason why I say that is because, and when I was, like I said, my first impression of music as a child was not, you must perform this by this date.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you must read the music and it was, let's just create. Anything that we do repetitively, we find ourselves involuntarily memorizing. And that just happens in regular life. It could be musical or not musical. You do something over and over again, you start to do it. So what we really struggle with is I am supposed to have this much memorized by this date, and then there's this whole pressure that goes with that, and it's not happening organically, in other words.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I feel like I know there are lots of tips, and you've obviously overcome a lot. I just feel like one extra side note is that unless there is a specific performance date coming up or something, I don't ask students ever to memorize something by a certain date, because I know that if I don't put that pressure on them, if they just practice for the joy of it, and as long as they're practicing correctly, of course, they're going to memorize it. They're
Yeah.
going,
Yeah,
and it
quite
almost always
often.
happens. So,
Yeah, I'd definitely say the bulk of students that's true, and it probably was an aspect of by a deadline for me. I definitely categorize things different. I can play things on repeat for a whole year and not memorize the whole
really,
thing.
wow,
So I
okay.
really do have a different
Hmm.
feel with that. However, you're right in the sense I can memorize stuff instantly and forever if somebody shows me something on
Oh,
the keys.
wow.
So it's almost like
Nice.
I have different file folders.
Huh.
But that could have also been caused by that culture of like you have to have this. There's for my
Oh,
degree
right.
it was like 43 pages of classical music just
Hmm.
crammed in your brain and a lot of stress with it. So maybe my memory's better than I give it credit for. But I definitely found that was a new unlock for me. I've always done analysis, but to actually speak it out loud, even though I'm a chatty person, I don't usually mutter to myself when I'm practicing. So I need to like start muttering a little bit
Nice.
more. So my family's going to be hearing
Oh, love it. I love it.
yeah, so that's pretty fun. So then this piece just, I love that when you come in again with this kind of sweet section, you're really good at taking ideas and expanding on them in fresh ways. And I think even I had the honor of talking to Christopher Norton a couple years ago, and a well-known,
Oh.
loved composer on this podcast. And he said that he's really good at like expanding on singular ideas. That's
Nice.
his
Yeah.
signature tip. So if you're
Oh,
listening
cool.
in, but you also do that well in that you had like this sweet section that comes back. I'm thinking of like the. And it has ideas from before, but with like a neat kind of da, 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 in the left hand. And also coming into the main theme on the second page, students can be excited because they put in all the hard work. And I often tell my students this too. You put in all these hard work, and then you need to be a good detective and think, what comes back and how does it change?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I love that in this part on measure 43, I know listeners aren't seeing the score at the same time, but it's this section. Or and it has ideas from before, but we have a bit more chromatic movement, and it just sounds so edgy and cool. And I love that you brought that where's that section? Oh yeah, this that's really satisfying to play.
Me too. I like it too.
Yeah, I just love that I get kind of geeky about little things, and I love that I had to kind of open up my hand position to secure on the B flat when it's
same.
bum 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 ba-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-da. But I love how we're in this kind of closed position and then we're opening up, and those little micro shifts are great as pianists because you're going to encounter other repertoire that does that as well. And then when I first heard this piece, the other thing that I thought is, wow, you play this ending so well.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, tremolo's my secret fear ever since I played Beethoven, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, I'm not terrified of it anymore. But do you have that little bit in your fingers like that?
Sure, yeah.
From wherever is comfortable. We'll show.
Let me see. Whoops. Man, I want that. It's that low note. I have a thing about low notes on the piano. They just like shake the floor, and it's just it's so nice. But yeah, the ending there. It's right there, yes.
I love the resonance of that too. That and especially we're both, I think, on keyboards, but when you're playing an acoustic, it's especially especially exciting. So yeah, I definitely had to put in some effort there and slow it down like a student would, you know, bum, ba-da-da, or higher. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's still a work in progress, and I love that even like you're demonstrating too and going, yeah, we're having to kind of go with the day, go with the instrument in front of us. I thought also this piece, one aspect that could be challenging for some students is we have a lot of repeated notes, and that was something that I was thinking about that really varies depending on the student. So if people are listening in and we've got this like dun, 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 you have this really fluent fingering written in that's common for repeating notes. But sometimes the action on a keyboard can be different too. So I thought, oh, that's like a great opportunity to talk to students about different aspects. Is there any tips you have for students if they're like, oh, my keyboard is sluggish, or my piano is got a deeper action, or anything?
Well, that's a very good question. I have not. I mean, I've done this with several different students with, acoustic pianos, digital pianos, and so forth. My experience has been, of course, you're right. They all vary, and I think we all tell our students, listen, you picked the wrong instrument, okay? Because you're the unlucky one that cannot take your own piano with you to all your various performances. You have got to learn how to play the piano that's in front of you. You should have picked the flute, or something, right? Or whatever. But in my experience, playing this with lots of different students on lots of different pianos, I have not encountered anyone yet who had trouble with that repeated note. I think so it's not a question really that I have had to answer. I do tell students that on a place like this, the further down, like toward the bottom of the key is always going to be a little bit easier, but you do have to gauge it on your piano. I think if someone were, and we really shouldn't be, but if someone were attempting to play something like this on a keyboard that had no touch response, which is like, not a good thing anyway, then they might have that issue. But I don't know if I have an answer. It's not something that I've encountered yet. Pretty much everybody on different pianos has been able to handle that so far. So
yeah. Good. Well, I like that you also mentioned that's something I don't always think about with a faster note is that kind of, I guess it's the physics of how the key works, especially on an acoustic piano, that like closer to the edge of the key and not into the heart of the key in that center zone that we usually play. So that would be like a playful exploration probably for students. And I love pieces that create that kind of curiosity and think, oh, well, I wonder if it feels lighter or if it feels faster. One thing I noticed, I got my ARCT on a 1907 upright acoustic, so I think that's why I think of a bit of a sluggish key. Maybe the root of my tremolo problems. Anyways, so I just noticed that I have to use a little bit more arm weight on that and feel like really balanced. If I was to play like bum, ba-da-dum, ba-da, I'm using a little bit more energy in the keys, whereas I feel like on a keyboard I can be ba ba da da ba ba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit easier and lighter here. So I've been exploring it on different keyboards, and that's maybe another thing for students to wander around, play that street piano and play that recital piano. I did tell my students, and so this is going to be my Find a Piano in the Wild piece. So I've been telling my students, hey, this spring project,
I like that,
isn't so much about like what's your performance piece. It's like, if you find a piano in the wild, what are you going to play? So whether it's in someone's living room or if it's on a street or at an airport. So I thought I'd tell my students, this is I found a piano, and instead of my usual like chording thing that I do, or like a bit of Beethoven, I'm going to play your piece. So it's going to be out in the
awesome.
wild.
In the wild. That's right. I love it.
So just to make sure people know where to find you, you have a brand new YouTube channel, so you can tell us a little bit more about where they'll find you, and it's of course all linked in the video description as well.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is brand new. I was finally talked into it, and I said, okay, let's try this. I've wanted to publish and market sheet music for a long time, and I had the sense talked into me that you got to put it on YouTube. You kind of have to do that, and so. All right, okay. So, yes, I have a YouTube channel where I publish music, and I am not a fast uploader, but...
That's a positive.
I couldn't be fast even if I wanted to, I don't think. Yeah. But, it's just YouTube. I'm sure Amy will have the link, but it's just my name, Jeff Millis, is my handle. I'm on Instagram at Jeff Millis Makes Musicians. And I post there as well. Sometimes my actual website where music is sold is jeffmillis.com. And there you go.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I love that we're connecting music makers. And so whether you are at the level where you can play Rebuttal or whether you want to be inspired, I know that you also have a project on your YouTube channel where you brought together, was it around 100 pianists? Could you tell us a bit about that?
Well, it's 100 hands. 100-ish hands. Yeah, so 50-ish piano players. Yeah. And it was actually, I believe the one that you saw was the second one that we ever did. I don't know if I have the first one from a few years ago on the YouTube channel right now. Anyway, that was my 2023 and 2024 project. It actually took a while because we had to start and stop. But yes, so that was an adventure. It's a piece of music that is intentionally written for many, many, many hands. And it was quite the project to send everybody their part and make sure that they had the material and the support they needed to learn it, and then they would record it, send it back to me, and then edit it all together and make it sound like everybody was performing together at the same time. But that was quite a thing. I actually did a presentation on it at the Creative Teaching Conference in Ohio in the summer of last year, and that was a lot of fun. I was super excited to be there, and I hope to make it to the next conference too.
Yeah,
that would be just really it's a wonderful time. But I got to present that, and there you go. That's what it was.
What's the title of it again?
It's called I Think We Won.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's kind of that example of when many hands don't make light work.
Oh, well,
because
not for me.
Yeah, not for you. That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, wow, when I see it from like that editing and composing and have everything interwoven. But it shows you as a composer, as someone who's highly detailed, very attentive to both how the music's created and written, and also so attentive to the scores that you're producing. So I think that puts a lot of faith for people listening in in the compositions you're producing because they're really lovely. They are well written. And even though this is an edgier piece from Jeff, I heard a few of your others and thought you also have some beautiful lyrical works
Oh,
too,
thank you.
at various levels. And
Hmm.
I think we'll hear lots more from you to come, but we won't go for quantity. We're going on like small, like well-paced releases from you for sure that can keep you healthy as a whole, and staying creative. So I love
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the plug.
that. Yeah, you're very welcome. So then the last thing I thought I'd mention is if you land at the piano without a to-do list, what
Mhm.
would be a piece that you would find yourself playing? Is it one of yours or is it someone else's? What do you play?
I think that kind of full circle ends up back where we started because I don't have a piece in mind. I generally just kind of start noodling. That's
Yeah.
almost always what I do. I have a few kind of like go-to themes that I like to play, but really I don't even necessarily come to the piano with a favorite key. Like I'll just pick a key and put my hands and just kind of where do my fingers go,
Yeah.
Of course, all of us who improvise, we do we do have well-worn grooves, things that we
Yes.
like to hear, and when we start improvising we tend to kind of do this in not exactly the same way every time, but I don't know that I could say I have a favorite piece to play. I love to improvise.
That's so
I love to noodle.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So what kind of chords, you're welcome to put your fingers on the keys, but what kind of chords would you be drawn to sometimes?
oh wow.
Put you on the spot here.
Oh my gosh, okay. Oops.
Yeah.
I mean, just forever we could just,
Oh, you know what? I love that because I love that we come at it from different places, and I hope people take that as an encouragement too to sit at the piano and like, oh, like I love that you found like some flat keys and you have these really. Your finger technique is very light, and I see those light flourishes often in your playing, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh, I
thank-
love that.
oh, cool. Well,
Yeah.
and that's what I love about your, because I have done this for so long, I do feel like I have grooves worn.
Yeah.
I love to play, and I love to play what I play, but at the same time, I'm 50,000 years old, and I've been teaching for, since I tell my students, my first student was a pterodactyl, and
Yeah.
I have been doing this for a very long time, and I loved about your channel, the exposure to so many other composers who this whole time they've been writing music that is wildly different from what I've thought of or tried before, and it's just like, oh, it's nice to feel that kind of really cool intrigue
Yeah.
feeling again, when
Yeah,
it's seeing new music.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been so fun for me. And like with your piece, it just brought something fresh. I'd been playing lots of lyrical music, which I absolutely love. But this one felt fun and fresh. And it gave me this huge spring break deep dive. I think I'll actually bring it out. We have a summer camp happening for our
Oh,
students
cool.
at Motif. And I've actually included it in tuition. So there's no extra cost for them to
Oh,
come to a
wow.
3-day ensemble camp. And I thought, oh, we'll have a little gathering at the end, a pizza party or watermelon party. I don't know yet. But I thought I'd bring this piece out for that. So
Oh,
that gives me
cool.
some time to let it simmer, but also like play it on a piano out in the wild and maybe even by memory. Who knows? Maybe this is my new
Hey.
my new era, my memorization era.
Hey, that might be. You seem to have quite a lot of it memorized right now, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
impressed.
Some of it's coming, and some of it's at that analytical level that if I think it through, it's there. So it's hopeful. So before people go, we have at Motif, I've just launched a newsletter, and you've also been supportive of it, Jeff. It's called Thrive in 3, and it's a free newsletter if people want some encouragement in their own piano teaching, and it includes one creative teaching tip, one studio management tip for that, and then one creative resource from usually a modern contemporary composer and a resource we love. So people can sign up for that, and I've linked that in the video description as well.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yeah, it's hopefully something I can replicate each month, and that brings just a spark of joy into people's existence as teachers. It's often a solo existence, so I love that we can encourage each other through new ways. So, Jeff, thank you for your time today and your investment in creating music. People that want to purchase this, the link is there, and I can guarantee you that the price is well worth hours and hours of thought and many compositions that get probably put in the recycle bin too.
Oh, yes.
To be honest, right? So it's not just the music here, but it's the music and investment in years of creativity that we see. So
thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And I'll see you on the flip side. And thank
Sounds
you to
good.
our audience who's listened in today.
All right.